Let's talk about entities. Now, what I mean with entities is a very interesting thing. Like you might have experienced that you're feeling good and all of a sudden you get an extreme headache or an extreme belly pain, or you start to get very tired all of a sudden, or maybe you get an out of control emotion. Most of the time, these energies are not yours. These energies are outside energies, and most of the time, outside beings that are attaching to you because you are seen as a light for them. So it's very good for them. So I want to tell you how I clear these energies in a very effective way so that they don't come back in this video. And next to that, I want to give you the right context because I'm noticing a lot that not many people have a healthy context to look at these phenomenons. So I think it's very good for us to all have the same context, right? Entities. So, what are they? When I first experienced them, it was so weird because I was just walking and all of a sudden I felt like whoop, and like I felt something entering in my head at one day and it started to grow and it started to grow into a migraine. I was like, oh my God. But I felt that it was not coming from myself. I felt like it's something shot into my head. And I started to develop this migraine and I was like, wow, what is going on here? And the method that I'm going to tell you now, I started to apply, and within maybe half a minute, the migraine left again. And then I was even more like, wow, what was that? That was an intense migraine and now it's gone. What was that? So I want to give you the right context about this. I call them entities, but you can call them dark beings or little monsters. You can call them so many things. What they are in a way, they're not bad, they're not dark, they're not evil. They're just beings that are in a lower spectrum of reality, just like there are beings higher on the spectrum. When we look at our spectrum of light, we see that we are only perceiving a very tiny slither of our reality, right? There's way more light available to us that we cannot see, but we can still perceive. It's very naive for humans to think that we are the only beings, that this light spectrum is the only light spectrum where there is life. There is way more life, there is way more existence on all these bandwidths of light. We are just tuned to this realm of light, and that's okay, but there are also beings that are higher on the spectrum, and there's also beings that are lower on the spectrum. Now, none of that is good or bad. None of that is good or bad. I think I should really say we should not judge, because normally we have this like, ooh, a dark entity, ooh, that's bad, ooh, we need to shove it away. But that resistance will only keep the entity longer. What you resist persists. So what we want is we want to make sure this entity is loved by us. It's not bad, it's just something on a denser plane of reality. So most of the time when you experience such an entity, some people can see them, some people can feel them or sense them. I'm someone who senses them. Most of the time as pain, and some of the time as heavy emotion. So what happens when such a being comes in, it's like it feels more dense. Also, when lighter beings come from the other side of the spectrum, it feels more light. It feels more ethereal and beautiful and elegant and blissful. And that's also beautiful, but that is not better than these dense beings, right? So these dense beings, they come to us most of the time because they want something from us and they're able to invoke something in us. So some of them, they can invoke pain or anger or sadness or victim mentality or a very worst case scenario. Did you ever just walk on the street and all of a sudden there is this mega crash that happens in your head where you cross the street and you got run over or like some weird thing happens? Most of the time that's an entity. Most of the time that's not your own thoughts. So let me give you the right context here, because there are so many different ways to experience this. But one thing, and all of this, by the way, I learned from Shaman Durek. Thank you, Shaman Durek, in his book Spirit Hacking. This is the method that after a lot of trying, I started using and it really worked. So this is my version of his way of bringing these entities to the right place. So one thing that he also says is everything that's not love is not you. So when you experience all of a sudden a very victim mentality or a big anger or a big crash, worst case scenario, that is not love. And what is not love is not you. It starts to get very easy to spot them when you remember that you are light and you are love, and everything that you're feeling that's not that is most of the time not you. So when you experience something like that, why they are coming to you is because they, most of the time, 99% of all the entities that I meet and see and experience are light beings, non-physical light beings that actually are covered by darkness, but they are into light. So they're covered in this kind of slack and darkness, but actually from the inside they're into the light. They're made from light, but they forgot. And in this cloud of darkness, they think that their survival is based on something. So they maybe think like, oh my God, I need to survive on anger. My life is based on anger, so I need to create or feed on some anger somewhere. And they see this light, you or me or some other person that is awake, and they come to that to create a little bit of anger so they can feed. So it's not because they think you are bad, or that it's not that they want to taunt you somehow. They actually are in survival state. So they are, or maybe even lower than survival state, right? Again, back to that spectrum of light. Maybe they're even lower than survival state. So what is happening is they don't even know. They are just trying to survive, right? Which already creates a little bit more empathy for these creatures. And when they come in, they are here, they're kind of feeding on us. And our job is to make sure these people are going back to their true frequency. A beautiful metaphor on this is in the movie Soul by Disney. There are these lost souls that are also souls that were from the light, but they're in this weird darkness, covered in this weird darkness, and they're just like almost blindly just walking and trying to, feed someone. So it's a really great metaphor. If you haven't seen the movie yet, I recommend seeing that movie. So I want to tell you how this method works. And I think for everyone it will feel a little bit different inside of them, but this will work very clearly. I taught it to many people in person and many people have asked, and that's why I'm making this video, to make this more widely available. So to clear an entity works like this. When you start to feel a heaviness, and when I'm making this video, actually, I felt a couple of things shotting in my body and I let them be there. So I'm going to clear them while I'm talking. So now I feel a heaviness in my belly here on the side and in my back. I feel this heaviness and a little bit here in my head. So maybe there are 3 entities there. So first I go inward and I ask like, hey, are you entities? And I hear yes, yes, yes. So there are 3, I hear 3 yeses. So that means 3 beings are at the moment latching on me. If you cannot hear that, I'm hearing that because I practiced Akashic Records a lot and my brain is now translating energy easier. If you don't hear that, you can always use a muscle test or a pendulum for asking this. So you can just ask like, hey, are these pains that I'm feeling or this emotion that I'm having, is this an entity? Or this worst case scenario that I'm all of a sudden playing in my head, is this an entity? If it's a yes, you can go to the next step. So the next step is to ask them if they are originally made from the light. So you can ask them where they came from, and sometimes they say, I'm coming from the darkness, or I'm coming from below, or, they say these things. Underworld, they sometimes also say. But when you ask them, where are you really coming from? What are you in your core? So are you originally made from light? Are you in your core made from light? When you say that, they almost always know that, and they always say yes. Only if it's a being that's not made from light. I experienced that a couple times, and I will tell you later how that works. But when it's also from light, we're gonna ask them, so we know they're originally light beings, we're gonna ask them if they want to go to the light. So we actually are very respectful, and we're asking them for permission. When we ask them for permission, again, we just ask them, in directed to the pain or the emotion that you might feel in your body, ask them, where are you coming from? Do you, like, we already know that they want to come from the light, so we say, do you want to go into the light? Can I take you into the light? And if you hear yes, and I hear now 3 yeses again, so I take them to the light. So now we have permission to take them to the light, which is amazing. So when we have permission, what I do is I kind of have this little mantra or statement that I use. Also, it's a paraphrase from what Shaman Durek is teaching. So what I do is I bring them up, and I really use my imagination first to imagine a column of light. And that can be everywhere. So if you just go inward and ask yourself, where is my column of light? Some of you might feel it in front of you. Some of you might feel it coming from the crown. It can come from many different places. But you will probably feel somewhere a column of light. But when you know that, you can kind of visualize light moving into your body, moving into that column of light. And with that, you can say this. Dear entities, dear spirits, I hereby take you fully and completely into the light. I hereby take you to a place of unconditional love, peace, freedom, and acceptance. Dear entities, I hereby take you fully and completely into the light. And my body starts moving weird, and I really feel it almost physically moving through my body, these energies. And now these pains starts to immediately relieve, but I still feel it a little bit. But now they're into the light, so they have a way better perspective. So first they were covered in darkness, trying to feed, but now they're into the light. So when I again ask, hey entities, where are you at the moment? I feel them here, like here. They're way more lighter. They're not so dense that I experience. And they say here, here, here. So I'm gonna ask, maybe, do you have any healing from the light? And they say yes. And they start sending me into the body. Another thing, because they now have a very high perspective, they're now based in the light, we can ask, do you have any wisdom from the light? Yes, dear one. We are greatly thanking you for releasing us, and we're so grateful that you are doing this work. Keep on going. That's what I just received. Amazing. That's amazing. So, and sometimes they gave me really important lessons. Like I was in Istanbul, and that's definitely a denser city. And I felt many of these entities coming. The more sensitive I became, the more I started feeling them. And sometimes I opened them and I asked for wisdom. They started to really give me incredible, profound wisdom, better than what I'm reading in books, like absolutely profound wisdom. So sometimes it's just a thank you, and other times they can really go very deep into what they want to share. So that's incredible, right? Because first they were latching on you, and now they're floating in the air, being kind of freed from their dark cloud, and they're even able to give you wisdom. And they're always very grateful that you did this work. So now, when you converse with them and you think like, okay, I'm complete, You can always, like I always say, okay, dear spirits, thank you so much. You're now into the light. Safe travels into the light. Goodbye. And I kind of feel them leaving my energy space. Now, when they are leaving, that's when truly, if I felt any pain or any emotion, when they're fully leaving, that's where I truly feel that energy is completely left. So with this method, and I will quickly repeat what I said. So first you ask if it's an entity. If it's a yes, you ask if where it comes from and if it's originally made from light. When that is a yes, you ask for permission to bring it into the light, to kind of bring it back to its true origin. When that's a yes, you do this thing, you just command kind of, I bring you now into the light. I bring you in this beautiful place of light and peace and acceptance and freedom. You're free now. I bring you now completely into the light. You can play with that. You don't have, like, this was already different than I said the first time. You can play with these things, but you feel the energy of it. It's more about that you create a statement of you bringing it and visualizing it. And you can even use your hands, taking these beings into a column. When that happens, ask for wisdom, ask for healing. Sometimes when I'm when I want to go to sleep, I just ask for, can you make me very sleepy? I need some sleep. Can you make me very sleepy? And it's incredible how sleepy they get. Or when I feel a little bit weak in my body, I ask for healing. So this is very beautiful. So in very small cases, they are not from the light, and they're actually from the darkness. Or from the darkness, they're originally made from a very low frequency. So that can happen. No judgment there. It's just a lower frequency. It's kind of like the rainbow, right? Like, it's about, like, green is not better than purple, but green is of a lower frequency than purple. But it's not better or worse. It's just another color, right? So what happens is, when they're from a lower frequency, and they're actually from a lower frequency, I most of the time already feel it. And in that case, I also bring them to their true origin. So when I ask, are you originally made from the light? They say, no, I'm from the darkness. Then I also say, okay, then I bring you back into the darkness. I don't want lower frequencies in my body, so I ask you now to leave. I bring you now back into the darkness. And instead of visualizing them upward, I visualize them downward. I visualize them really going down through the earth, like downward. So in any case, I'm not here to judge. I'm not here to make this world lighter or darker. I just want to bring them back to their true nature, to their true origin. And I think that's very important in this, that we're really not judging. I know I repeat this a lot in this video, but it's so important to have a more neutral perspective, where dark and light are of similar value, instead of light is amazing and dark is bad. No, they're of similar value. They're actually helping each other, but that's all a topic for a whole nother video. So now you know how I release these entities. And for me, I was not always sensitive to this, but some of you have been always sensitive to this and kind of shut yourself off when you were young, because it was just maybe too weird for your parents, or it was too intense. There have been moments, like for me, I have been kind of not feeling this until I started meditating, and out of meditating came breathwork, and out of breathwork came Reiki. And when I started doing Reiki on myself, then I started to get very sensitive. And then it's when I started to feel these energies in my body coming in, being very heavy blobs, or, like I said, emotions, or everything that's not love, like so many crazy things. Sometimes I'm working, right? Sometimes I was just working, and all of a sudden I hear a helicopter, and my mind all of a sudden thinks that helicopter is going to crash inside of my building and just everything to smithereens. So That's crazy. That's not loving. I'm just working and chilling. And all of a sudden, this crazy thought comes into my mind. Then I know, that's not me. That's an entity. And I can always check, is this me? And it says no in my muscle test or with a pendulum. But most of the time, you know it's not you. And sometimes you don't. Sometimes I'm just very angry and irritated, and I'm like, like being a little bit irritated, and then all of a sudden my girlfriend says like, "Oh, you're very irritated." I'm like, maybe this is an entity. So she needs to kind of reflect to me back that I am irritated. So know that that is a lot of things in your body that are not love are not you, and try to use this method to bring them back to their true origin and not to shove them away, because that's what was I was doing before that. I was like, oh, entity, I want it away, go away. But that always looped back. So I had a pain and I shoved it away and it went away, but 2 days later the same pain came back. I was like, oh my god, and I was like in loops doing it again. But with this method that I learned from Shaman Durek, I started to do this way more in a better way, and they don't come back. They're very grateful, and I even receive wisdom and I receive healing. So let me know how this resonated. Let me know if you experienced entities before. Let's open the conversation, because when I started experiencing things, I was so weirded out. I was not talking to anybody about this. But the more I started to meet people on this path, I started to see that everyone, especially when you're getting conscious, start to experience these metaphysical phenomena and start to be in contact with beings that are on different planes of reality. So it's good to start opening this conversation. And I think we have so much power inside of us and so much subtle sensory equipment inside of our being. And a lot of people, we don't know how to use it. And I'm just kind of, my hobby is just to gather all these spiritual tools. But a lot of them are not really spiritual. They're actually just really handy tools to learn and to better discern and to do these things in a clean way. So I always have the right information for me to move forward. And I always know what is my energy and what is not my energy. But for now, have a great day. I love you so much. I'm so happy to be in this position, to be teaching this to you. So thank you so much for staying in the end. And let's bring all of these poor beings to their true nature.